All right, this is it, our first ever GLA Live. Adam, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I am doing so great. I'm really excited to get into this. This was an idea that came to me from you, that we bounced back and forth, and really just want to start talking to folks on different evenings about what are some practical tools that Grassroots Leadership Academy can offer to folks, just to give you guys a little taste of what we do and who we are. And my goal for everyone is by the end of this that you're going to walk away with the tools necessary to talk about freedom, to have those tough conversations. Because let's be real, step back for a second. Every single one of us has that friend that we don't agree with on everything. Every single one of us has that family member and that coworker. I know I have a few coworkers that I maybe don't agree with all the time. But how do we have those better conversations? Because I've done a few trainings all across the country, and one of the things that I constantly hear is, you know, I actually share a story with you. I was in around Youngstown, Ohio, about 2 weeks ago, and this lady goes, "I can't even talk to my grandson anymore." She goes, I'm so frustrated with, he went to college. We thought we raised him right. We thought we gave him all the tools necessary, but now he's changed, and we fight all the time. And I still love him, but I just don't talk politics with him anymore, and I just have no faith that any of this stuff's ever going to get through. So this is for you, and this is for all of those people that have those same feelings. So if we would, I want everyone drop in the chat where you're coming from, where you're listening to us live, and I hope that by the end of this, you guys are going to get the tools necessary to begin having those tougher conversations, to have those, really tough, politically minded, whenever we're trying to convey what we believe is the right path to freedom, and other people are saying no, let's talk about that. So drop in the chat. And while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel, we're going to be going live pretty frequently with different little tidbits, little talks about these kind of things. So like and subscribe. And if you would also check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, what else are we on? Twitter. Check out our social
I think
media
we are
pages.
everywhere.
We're everywhere. And that's how you will find the most up to date information on trainings in your area. You can also go to glatrainings.org. What's our website? Give us
GLAtraining.org. That is us.
.org.
GLAtraining.org.
Awesome.
Right on the front page, you can scroll down and you'll see a place to stay connected. Give us your
Awesome.
name and your email address, and you will stay connected to all our future trainings. We have a team of trainers that hit all 50 states, so we can be there for you as well, including,
Yeah.
I see, Annie's from Miami, Susan's from Las Vegas. That is where we are. I love going to those cities. Those are two great places to go. But
I'm
Adam,
sure you
I'm
do.
with you. I want to step back to one thing you were saying earlier. We all have that family member, that friend that we truly love and truly care about. And it hurts. Like it really hurts that sometimes these divides can get in the way of actually connecting with them and having just a good conversation overall, instead of just even not related to politics. It can just kind of sift in.
Yeah.
Um, One of our colleagues gave this training at a conference once, and someone came up to him after and said, "I think I figured out how I can finally talk to my son." I
Hmm.
mean, man, that's whew, that's going to hit you right in the feels.
Yeah, that's deep stuff.
Well, let's
And
dive right into it.
well, as we start, I want to kind of share a story that I think some of the folks listening might relate to. So I want to say it was right before COVID. So I'm going to say it was about 2019. I went out to go visit some family that I don't see often that lives in a state that is a little more liberal leaning than the one that I am in. And so I was sitting there. It was the first time we'd actually like all gotten together because we all live in different parts of the country. But it was my grandfather's birthday, and so we all went out there. And my grandpa, not used to visitors, sitting there watching the news like he does every night. And the whole family's in the living room, and I'll never forget. He says, uh, something was on the news that ticked him off, and he goes, "Well, it's all because of liberals like your Uncle Dave over there. This country's going in the way that it's going." At the time, he looks at me and goes, "You really think that, Dad? You think that it's my fault?" He goes, "What about you? What have you done to help anyone? What have you done to help the homeless crisis and all that?" He goes, "You just sit here and complain all day about all the problems, but you're not actually doing anything." And they really started to get into it. And I grabbed my cousins, and there's an ice cream shop there that I love. So I said, let's go grab some ice cream, let them, hash it out. And as we were walking out, I heard something that was really profound to me. And I'll never forget it. My aunt leans over and tells my grandmother as we're walking out the door, she goes, "We'd come and visit. We'd love to visit more, but he just doesn't listen to anyone. It's not that he was wrong. It's not that he had conservative views or anything like that. He just didn't listen enough." So, what I want to hopefully give you guys today through this How to Sell Freedom is 6 steps to have better conversations with those individuals that you maybe don't agree with all the time. So, I'm going to start up here. I want you guys to drop in the chat what are the principles that you believe make up a free society? And just brainstorm. If you've got one thing, if you got 10 things, if you got 20 things, drop in what you believe are some of the principles that make up a free society. When you vision a free society, what are those principles? And some of the ones that I've heard before, free speech, freedom of commerce, openness, open flow of ideas, stuff like that. So put those in the chat. Jason, what are some of yours that you've got?
I always answer this different. So freedom of speech, absolutely,
Yeah.
right? That's crucial. Rule of law, that's always been big for me.
Hmm.
And then individual
Tell me, wait,
liberty.
tell me a little more about rule of law.
Well, it I'm going to get really nerdy here for a minute because we used to have kings and they used to
Hmm.
have total power over everything and they were the law. So on their whim, you're here or there.
Yeah.
Um, there's a couple different ways to approach that now that your law needs to apply equally to all people all the time for everyone. Or else
Right.
what's the point in having them in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also individual liberty, that one's a huge one for me as well. So
Individual
with
liberty.
individual liberty, right? Like you have the right to make your own choices in life. I don't have to agree with your choices. That's one of the coolest things about the country and about us. We don't have to agree, but I have to tolerate. I have to understand. I have
Right.
to create some level of understanding.
So what it sounds like you're talking about is, going back to that freedom of speech, the freedom of ideas, the fact that everybody should be allowed to, have their own ideas, to express those ideas, in a constructive manner. Obviously, there's some constraints, but in a constructive manner, we should be allowed to have our own, visions, our own beliefs. What are some other ones? Is there any coming in the chat?
Coming in the chat. Respect for others' rights.
Okay, respect for others' rights.
Yeah,
Why is
that's a
that
good one.
important, you think?
Respect for others' rights. So I always take that as that same thing as that toleration and that individual liberty and freedom, as well as human rights, right? We we all live no matter what. We all interact with each other. And I'm not talking about government and I'm not talking about any structure or order like that. I'm talking about we have neighbors, we have friends, we have people we care about. We don't all live in a bubble. Um, so we have to respect that other people have the exact same rights we do.
Well, it also sounds like you're talking about, even fairness, the idea that,
Ooh,
we should be treating each other fairly,
yeah.
something along those lines. What other ones do we got here?
We got freedom to worship as we please.
Freedom of worship as we please. And why is that important?
I mean, it all ties together, right?
Yeah.
So it's that toleration, it's that rule of law. You can't make one thing illegal. If everyone's consenting and not hurting each other, you have that right to be yourself,
Yeah.
to worship how you please.
All right. What's one more we got in the chat?
Those were the couple that I got kicking around were respect for others' rights and freedom to worship. I could go on forever
I don't know. Give me one more. Give me
about
one
that.
more.
Let's do. Was an interesting one I got recently when we were doing this was the idea of a representative government.
Representative government.
Representative government. So
Tell me more about that.
what their idea was that when government acts behind closed doors, or they act without acknowledging the people that they're governing, that's when they said they believe that things started to break down. So you can't have the rule of law if government is acting in the shadows and acting in the background.
So you're
So by
talking about the
having a representative
principle.
government,
Sounds like you're talking about the principle of openness.
yes, yeah, I
More
think that's what he was
transparency.
going for. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, as I want to pivot here and getting back to those 6 steps of better conversations, essentially what we've just done, for those of you watching, is go through the first step, which is listen to understand and then wait to respond. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. It's one of those seven habits of highly effective people. If you've ever read that book, it's a great book. I recommend it. I think that's number 5 in the book. But seek first to understand, then to be understood, because I know that there are a lot of people, my dad included. There's 2 types of folks: those that listen and those that wait to respond. And you can always pick those people out in every room that you're in. It doesn't matter. And I'm sure every single one of you has had a conversation with someone where, you're talking and they're just trying to one up you and they're just waiting to get their tidbit in. And you're like, I don't really think they were actually listening to me at all. And so that's where it starts, is seeking first to understand, then to be understood. So how do you do that? So some of the tactics that I just used in talking to Jason were, the first one being the idea of mirroring. And that's essentially repeating keywords back to the person with whom you're talking. Okay, picking out the stuff that you may agree on, picking out the principles. Okay, well, was that what you were talking about? Yeah, it was. The second one is labeling. And so just there at the end, whenever he was talking about that last one, I said, it sounds like you're talking about the principle of openness. Yeah. That was what we were trying to get at. That's often what Chris Voss has called the truth serum. If you ever read Chris Voss, he's got a book um, called Never Split the Difference, Negotiating Like Your Life Depends on It. He was a former hostage negotiator with the FBI, and his book is one of the best books I've ever read. I have tried to use all of his tactics. As a matter of fact, I was actually dating this girl, and I was using those tactics on her to better understand. And she's like, "It's that dang book you're reading, isn't it? It's more that crap from that book." But it works, and that's why it's so successful. Um, the
yeah.
third one
I
here
mean,
is,
I love when you talk and you say it sounds like.
mhm,
That to me is such a powerful phrase, because what you're conveying in that moment, instead of saying, so what you're saying is,
right,
or so basically, what you're saying, you're leaving yourself open to be wrong. So when I say it sounds like you're talking about, I'm conveying, and these little words, it's crazy how much just these little words can matter. If I say it sounds like what you're talking about, or I feel like what you're saying, I'm putting the onus on me. I'm
right,
saying, hey, I
right.
could be wrong, but it sounds like what you're saying is this. And now I'm inviting you to say another piece to it. So you can either
Mhm.
say, yes, that's it. Finally, like I have tried this, I've used this on people before. And I had someone who's very frustrated say, yes, finally, someone's listening to me. At the same time, I fully expect someday of using this to be very wrong. And someone to go, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. But
Yeah,
by saying it sounds like, now I'm opening up and they're responding.
yeah.
So they're responding and we're getting to that deeper level and we're creating that connection. I love that phrase.
Yeah, when we were at the training conference recently, um, we were talking about ways to, as the person listening to, the problems that someone's facing, how do we make it more about them and not about us? And one of the things they always say is, is there any more questions? And it kind of makes the audience feel like, oh God, I've got to ask a dumb question. I remember being that kid in elementary school. It's like, I have so many questions, but I don't want to look like an idiot in front of the whole class, so I'm not going to say anything. But saying, is there anything that I can clarify? Is there anything that I can go back and better understand? And the same type of language, when you put it on them, and you're the one in charge, I'm the one that doesn't get it. And I think that that's one of the most powerful things. He also uses in that book, the stuff like, it feels like. Not using those I, me, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't get it. But saying it feels like what you're trying to tell me is this. It feels like, it sounds like. Taking away those first person pronouns and putting in, it seems like, it feels like, um, to better let the person that's on the other end that's talking say, yeah, that is how I feel. Because really, at the end of the day, we want our feelings validated, and that's why these people get so emotional about it, is because they're passionate. These are their feelings.
Right. This is why we all get emotional about it. We're going back and forth. We want to we in that moment of that fight, like when you took your cousins out for ice cream, there was passion in there, right? They say,
Hmm.
if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to be engaged if you're not passionate, if you don't care about this issue.
Yeah,
So that heated exchange is a lot. That's a lot of passion and caring going back and forth, not being directed right.
right. So the third one here, in our step one, so we've talked about mirroring, we've talked about labeling. The third one is tell me more. And the one I love about this, the first time I heard this, they said, what happens when you ask someone to tell me more? They always do. I ran for office recently back in 2020, and I remember knocking doors and having conversations with folks. And I'd always go up, and they'd be like, "Well, schools are just terrible, or the roads are terrible." I'm like, "Well, tell me a little bit more about that. I want to understand where you're coming from in this."
Mhm.
Because I may not always see it. I don't drive down the same roads that you do. My kids don't go to the same schools that your kids go to. So tell me more about that. And I guarantee you they always will. And then the last one, and this one is probably the biggest one for me, but why is that important to you? I think that really gets to the crux of everything of, this is so important to me because I've been through this. This is so important to me because of this. Because we don't know where everyone's coming from. You really don't. I remember I was at a Young Republicans meeting one time, and it was right after COVID, and the guy said, "Well, I'm guessing this is just the meeting of everyone that hasn't been vaccinated, everyone that's anti-mask." And it was just like, "Ooh, easy there, buddy." And he goes, "One of my friends just gets up and leaves." And I was kind of, confused, and I asked after the fact. I said, "Hey, what happened?" I go, "My dad died from COVID. I had to get the vaccine afterwards. I don't know if it was the right thing or not to do, but that was where my conviction, held me." And it was that experience that she had that, ultimately led her to have her opinion on something. All of us come from different walks, different backgrounds, and really understanding that sometimes someone may have a belief, and it's not just because they're a Republican or a Democrat, or they're conservative or a liberal or a libertarian or a, communist or a whatever. Everyone has different life events that have led them to where they are today. And asking that question, why is that important to you, allows them to share that story. And then you can go back, why is that important to you? Well, I've faced, challenges in my life. Um, just a fun one here, I'll talk about how I can't eat KFC anymore. Someone will go, why is
You
that?
can't eat KFC anymore?
I can't eat KFC anymore because I grew up. My dad managed a KFC for 38 years. I ate so much fried chicken. I mean, you can tell I'm a product of fried chicken. But
Tell me more.
yeah, it was great. But it paid the bills. The Colonel took care of us. But I can't eat it anymore, and I'm sure everyone has that food too. But everyone also has those life experiences that they've been through. Um, crazy thing that actually happened to me 2 days ago. I was meeting with my friend had gone on a date with a girl, and she said she was from Colorado, and she said she was from one of the suburbs, and she grew up there. And I said, "Well, do you remember when this happened, or do you remember when this happened?" I happened to mention, "Do you remember when the Aurora shooting happened for the Dark Knight? Like, where were you when that happened?" And she goes, "I was in the theater."
Wow.
And I about fell down in my chair. I was like, "I should not have asked that one." Um, I felt like a complete idiot, but just like that, it's being mindful of, the way that you talk about things, the way that you have these conversations, because everyone has a reason that these things are important to them. And so, one of the ways that you can do this is by picking up on cues. What are the cues that they're giving you? Picking up those cues to, how do they lean? And I think we all kind of know some of the buzzwords, but, picking up those clues, and going back to the individual person and where they're coming from. So that's step one. And I know that that's a lot of information to take in, and that's a great training right there. Just
Yeah.
using those. You could use those all day and get through. But at the end
And
of the
one of
day,
the
we
things
want
we
to,
do,
yeah,
you can see, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. If you could
yeah,
check out, I'm going to pitch the website again to everybody, glatraining.org. It's GLA for Grassroots Leadership Academy, training.org. We have a full description right on the website about this program and about this how-to. And we have a series of 5 how-to programs that we use as well that kind of introduces you to a lot of these principles. And this program can be, boy, almost a half hour, 45 minutes we've lasted with this before and done this training live.
yeah,
What this allows to happen is you can interact with other people, and it feels weird sometimes. I will tell you, the first time I started doing Tell Me More, started mirroring, started doing some of this stuff, it felt awkward and it felt weird. But I was in an environment with 15 other people who felt just as weird and awkward. And someone would say something, they said, "Oh no, I think I sounded ridiculous." I'm like, "No, you sounded like you really cared."
yeah,
So our live trainings, our in-person trainings that we can do all over the country, have that same effect on people, and Zoom as well.
yeah,
So if we can't say get to, we've got some large states in this union. I'm from Massachusetts. I can get just about anywhere in Massachusetts for a training in the evening. But we've got some states where you can't cross that whole state in one evening for a training, for an event, to learn more. We can do live, we can do Zoom, we can be that connection that can bring everybody together.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good thought. Everyone, make sure that you're checking out the website, checking out all the stuff that we're doing, constantly updating. Our team that runs the GLA Instagram is great. 2 rock stars over there of social media brilliance that I can't even relate to, um, but they take care of us. They're awesome. So I want to go through the last few steps here. So we talked about step one: seek first to understand, then to be understood. Going through those 4 ideas of mirroring, labeling, tell me more. Why is that important to you? But once you've gotten to that point and you kind of understand where that person's coming from, the next thing is to state the principle that you've identified. So it sounds like you're talking about openness. Yes, I am. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Whether that's on the idea of immigration or, talking about fairness. So recently I had a conversation with some folks about educational choice. And they said, well, it's just not fair that, the kids just don't get the best education. And that's why I want to send my kid to a better school, but we don't have the money for it. So it's not fair because I'm paying into this and I'm paying that. And you hear that thrown around all the time. And so state the principle that you've identified. It sounds like we're talking about fairness here. Yeah, we are talking about fairness. Okay. Step 3, define the principle. So you're defining fairness as, that children ought to get the best education for their needs. And just wrapping everyone up and putting them into the same bucket isn't fair. That's unfair, right? Yeah, I would agree with that. Step 4, establish credibility. Now, this isn't trying to say, oh, I'm a doctor, I have a PhD in education, and I've studied this over and over, because I don't like those people. The people that are always telling you, I have multiple MBAs from multiple universities. Like, I don't care about that. I care about how much you care, because people don't really care to know how much you know until they know how much you care. And
You
that's a
say that
great
one
quote
again?
from
I
the
love
community.
that phrase.
I
Say that
love
one
it.
again for me.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so establish that credibility. For me, maybe, well, I have a daughter too, and I'm thinking about what her educational journey is going to look like. She's only 15 months old, but, I'm already thinking forward because I know it's such a huge issue in our country today that I want to make sure that wherever she is, when she's ready to go into school, that we have the best opportunities for her possible. Step 5, create common ground. Where can we connect on these issues? If they don't have skin in the game, why should they? Why should they care? And that starts with sharing your story. Beginning to connect with them. And then step 6, connect the principle to your position. So if that's the idea that students should be able to go wherever they want to, or students should be able to have the best education, and that's fair. And connecting that definition back. Now, the key is here, if at any point in this you start to get pushback And someone's like, whoa, 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 hold on. You're talking about fairness. Well, that's not fair because, what about those people that are still paying taxes that are going to this and you're taking your kids here and it's gonna ruin rural schools. I heard that a million times in Oklahoma. It's gonna
Yep.
kill rural schools. If kids start going to the private schools, well, that's not fair. Okay, well, tell me more about that. Why is
Tell
that
me
important
more.
to you? Go back to that first step, start to understand, and then walk back through it again. And I promise you, you'll get so much farther. And then that really starts with this idea that we have here at Grassroots Leadership Academy. And kind of, I don't know what the official name of it is. I call it the pathway to mobilization. I know we have a lot of different things. But it starts with you're trying to build a relationship with this person. How many of us, drop in the chat if you would, a yes, a head nod, a wink. But, how many of you see that person on Facebook that just shares everything they know? And I'm sure the first thing you think is, wow, that is such a credible source. I'm going to read everything that they have to say because I know that they. No, of course not. No. But you have to have a relationship. If someone was posting, crazy stuff about a candidate, I probably wouldn't listen to it. But every election cycle, for some reason, my mom and my members of my church, hey, who should we be voting for in this election? And that's because we have a relationship. And from a relationship, you can build trust. Then from trust, once you trust someone, you can begin to educate them. I can't just educate someone that I met on the streets. We see those people standing out, holding signs, whatever. It's like, I don't care. I don't know you. I have no skin in the game. I don't know you. So you've built a relationship. You've gained trust. You're able to educate them. Then you're able to motivate them to act for your cause and then hopefully mobilize them. And this isn't just like, oh, we've built a relationship and I now trust you, Jason. Let me educate you on how great Oklahoma is. I'm going to motivate you to move here and you are mobilizing. You're over here in my state. That's not how it works. I think a lot of times we want those microwave solutions, but this is a crock pot solution. And I'm going to share a story with you all real fast about someone that I met in Michigan doing a training. I was talking to him and he goes, Adam, this makes so much sense. He goes, I was knocking doors for school choice long before COVID happened. Because I had some children that had special needs. I had one son that was, developmentally behind. And, and my daughter was like light years ahead. And I wish I could have put her in like a better academy to like help her get to college because she was kind of stuck with, the same teachers and she was stuck with the herd and she could never get out ahead. And he goes, and I had two children with two totally different experiences, but somehow they were having to get lumped in. So he goes, I was out knocking doors, talking to folks about the issues. He goes, I went up and I knocked this one door. I had little pamphlets that I was handing out, little brochures, and I was talking to the lady, and she goes, this is the stupidest thing that I have ever heard in my entire life. And she slammed the door in my face. He goes, I started walking down her sidewalk, walking away. She literally opened the door, and he goes, Adam, I'm not kidding with you. She opens the door. She goes, hold on. Come back here. There's something here that I actually want to ask you about. And he's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. He walks back up. She slams the door in his face again, laughing.
Wow.
So he leaves, goes away, and he said about 2 years later, kind of in the middle of COVID and all this, when parents were starting to learn about, maybe how bad the education that their kids were getting and virtual learning maybe wasn't the answer. He goes, I got a call from that lady. And she goes, I was so wrong. I would love to talk to you because I have some friends and I have a niece and a nephew that are struggling. And I want to know if Michigan has any options, or if there's not, what can we do to help get options? So you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen with anyone. You're basically, what you're trying to do is you're putting deposits of trust into this. You're listening, you're using those small deposits, and hopefully what I believe is that you'll get something in return from this. So,
Adam, I think we could sit down and have an entire conversation on that whole process. That alone, we could sit down for 20, 30 minutes talking about building relationships, how relationships build trust. Trust allows for education, and education leads to mobilization.
Yeah.
I'm going to pitch that. Actually, I think what we should do, Adam, we should come back during the day sometime, I think, and do kind of a fireside chat, a little more relaxed, kind of just hanging out, and we'll talk about that program and talk about that whole setup, that system. I think we're going to do that. And then here's what I want to do as well. I kind of made a promise out there a little bit ahead of time to some folks about doing just about a half hour. If
Yeah.
people are invested, people want more. I don't have anything on the books tonight. Adam, how about you? I would love to keep talking about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um,
Keep going.
but let's do this again. We've got 5 programs in our how-to series.
Okay.
And I think what we should do is a month from now, we'll call it the second Tuesday. Let's go through all 5. Let's get some of our other trainers. Let's get some of our colleagues in here,
Yeah.
because it's not just us. There's this awesome team that I've been part of for more than 6 years. Adam is part of our class of 2022 that joined us. So he's coming on 2 years now. We've got some new trainers. We've got some amazing folks who have been around a lot longer than me. Let's bring some of them on. I'm going to put in the chat right now a link to all of our how-to programs.
Okay.
And that's going to be able to see all 5. It's 5. So let's do this. Second Tuesday, every single month.
Okay.
I'm going to bring someone on, and we're going to do one of our how-to programs for an audience on YouTube. We're going to start growing that way.
All right. Let's do it.
And I can't thank everyone enough. I have another screen here. I'm watching things. People are subscribing. People are liking. I cannot thank everybody enough. I truly appreciate people willing to join us. People are talking in the chat. It's great. So I want to keep doing this. And at the same time, Adam, just because once a month, that is not enough.
No.
Let's get together. I know we're both booked next week for a whole bunch of stuff, but let's say 2 weeks from now, let's get together. We'll put something out. We'll do the same thing. We'll advertise ahead of time. We'll come out with it, and we'll say this will be a little more relaxed. I'm standing right now because I am just amped up because I love this. And this is like, I can't train sitting down. Maybe I'll sit down for that one and grab a cup of coffee. And we'll talk about that program, that relationship, trust, education, mobilization, some of the pieces that go together that create the programs of the Grassroots Leadership Academy. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to just tie a little bow on my story at the beginning about my uncle and my grandfather. It wasn't that they necessarily agreed. They both knew what the problems were. Now, it's not saying that my grandpa is now, a left-leaning liberal and my uncle has come off crossed from the dark side,
They didn't
as my
flip-flop?
grandpa would say. But they have conversations, and we've worked through a lot of that. And it's all about listening. And that's really, what it gets back to is listening to others, seeking first to understand. And just like I said in the beginning, with that story of the guy in Michigan, he had to wait. It's okay. Don't be afraid to let people be wrong. Let folks come around. And I really appreciate everyone coming on tonight. Like I said, subscribe. Let's get it up to how many subscribers do we have now?
We are currently at 21.
All right.
I've got monitors and computers everywhere. I'm ready to go.
I'd love to see 100 subscribers by the end of the month, and then let's just take it from there. Take it to the moon. Let's just keep going after it. But thank you all so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to get to share some insight. Feel free to reach out to me or Jason. Drop us a line at any time. I'm on social media. Jason's on social media.
Yeah.
Feel free to look us up. I'm at Sniper Masters on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm Jason S. Edson at Twitter and Instagram because 20 years ago we all used our middle initials, and I apologize for that.
Very good.
We're available. Like I said, GLA training. Look up Grassroots Leadership Academy. Instagram is GLA.training. Twitter is GLA training.
Okay.
And of course, we're glatraining.org. And this is just a touch. There's more steps towards this training itself, how to sell freedom without starting a fight. When we do this virtually or in person, we give you a 6-page handout that has books, that has references, that has links, that has information that you can write this down and rehearse it on your own. So when we do this training with people, you walk away with stuff. You walk away with those
and
things.
this has been wildly successful all over the country. I know I did this in Rhode Island, and what they were able to do, I did this 1 week. They took the tools that we gave them. They went out. They were able to make a huge change. They were able to, defeat what they were working against, some bond issue or something. They were able to defeat it, and I came back. I think it was 2 weeks later, and I literally had people hugging me saying, "Thank you for telling us this. This has been so." It was like a light bulb just went off that we were fighting for this, but we weren't connecting on principle, or I wasn't really seeking to understand. I was just trying to share what I knew. So this is something that I've seen all across the country be extremely well received. And like we said, if this is something that you want to bring out to your area, we'd love to come out. I have no aversion to traveling,
Nope.
doing this in person
Oh
whatsoever.
yeah.
Even though I
No, I
love
think
when we
William's
get
going to get
to,
us a group. He's been active in the chat. I think he's going
yeah,
to get us a group to go out to.
yeah. Well, as much as I love being able to go downstairs and get some Brahms ice cream and some Whataburger, I love getting out and traveling and meeting folks and hearing their stories. So, with that, I'll throw it to Jason for any last words, and we'll call it a night.
Yeah. So let's do it. Second Tuesday, May 14th. We'll be back with another one from our how-to series.
Yep.
And hopefully, if you like and subscribe, then you'll be on. You'll see the next one. You'll see the scheduling for Adam and I talking about a little of the inner workings of some of the GLA techniques, the stuff that makes our trainings our trainings.
And let's
Thank you.
do a thing. If out of the first 100 people that subscribe, let's throw some swag their way. Let's pick someone, and we'll come back to that next training. We'll pick out one of our subscribers, and we'll get you guys some GLA swag. I know you've got a little pull over there.
I do, right?
So
Let's figure some
get
swag.
you. We'll get
We
you
got water
something.
bottles, coffee mugs.
Yep, we'll pick a winner from our first 100 subscribers, and we'll do that.
We're gonna put some pressure on our social media team. They're amazing, so I feel very confident in our ability to call them out right now with something we haven't talked to them about, and to get something going, to get some swag out to some folks to subscribe.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Truly, we appreciate it. Can't wait for next time.
Thank you.